What a good couple of weeks it's been. I've cancelled so many people that totally deserve it. I've cancelled Salt Bae, I've cancelled Chris Pratt, I even cancelled Mr Beast. I'm glad these people won't work anymore. Oh wait, what's this new video from Moist Critical? Twitter versus Mr Beast. I wonder whose side he's going to take on this.
Because he is exactly the kind of wealthy person people have been begging for, and he's still getting for it. It's just something that is silly and can be said for everything. Targeted at one of the only wealthy people in general who are constantly helping the community and people around him. But he's one of the only genuine wealthy people that are constantly doing everything they can to help other people.
Another Mr Beast simp, not surprising. That also means I need to cancel Moist Critical, and this video is going to be the very end of Mr Beast's career. I'm finally going to cancel him. You guys didn't get the message in my last video, so I'm going to spell it out really clearly for you in this, and hopefully this video will go viral and Mr Beast will never make another YouTube video or promote some shady cryptocurrency again. A lot of you guys have been linking me that critical video because it seemed like it was responding to my video. It wasn't actually prompted by my video, although I did say something that he responded to in my video that tried to cancel Mr Beast once and for all. But Critikal has become Mr Beast's simp lawyer, and you Mr Beast simps just don't get the message. So I'm gonna have to do another video cancelling Mr Beast again, and this time I'm going to be directly tackling the charity stuff, and I'm also going to be talking about him promoting environmental causes while also shilling for crypto and NFTs. Because I thought Mr Beast just really loved the environment and cared so much about it. So you'd think a guy who's doing all these charitable initiatives to do with the environment might not be using cryptocurrency, which is bad for the environment. It could be that there's an ulterior motive for his charity work, and that is clout and popularity. But I also want to speculate a bit on taxes in regards to other millionaire and billionaire people who do a lot of charity work. And we're going to listen to a lawyer and what he would actually advise Mr Beast to do in terms of setting up his business in a way that he would have to pay the least amount of tax possible, and then maybe speculate on if Mr Beast has probably got this advice already. But we're going to talk about all of that in the video. Before we get any further, I'm going to plug my socials and my Patreon for about a minute. So there are timestamps down in the description, so skip this stuff if you're not interested. Before we get any further, a lot of my work on this channel is demonetized because when you're covering more serious, sometimes edgier topics, YouTube doesn't like this. So if you've ever enjoyed my work, please consider becoming a patron. And you don't have to pledge a crazy amount. I want to build up my Patreon based on as many people as possible pledging little amounts, like $1 or $2. So if you feel like I have ever brought anything that's worthwhile into your life and my content, please really consider becoming a patron to help me continue to do this regardless of if YouTube monetize or not most of my videos in a given month. Also, if you want to join our communities, come check out our Discord and my subreddit. Those links in the description. And if you want to follow me personally, please check out the Kavernacle at Twitter, at Instagram, and also my personal Reddit where you can keep up to date with all my content and what I'm doing. Thanks so much for the sub growth recently. Look at the beautiful 50k pyramid. Let's keep going. Let's see if we can add potentially one more before the end of the year. Am I getting too ambitious? But it would be nice to make this even bigger one day. All you're going to see is just infinite amount of chocolate oranges in my backdrop. Also, I usually live stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that is archived on the Kavernacle Extra, my second channel. So go subscribe to that if you don't want to miss out on anything. So let's first start with the Critikal video. Now, it's really not surprising a YouTube millionaire is defending another YouTube millionaire. And with Mr Beast and these more elite American YouTubers, they all just seem to be buddies and know that cross-collaboration is really good for their own growth and cross-pollination. Right-wing political YouTubers use this tactic a lot as well, but it seems that Moist Critical is also a business partner of Mr Beast, because here's a tweet: Mr Beast, we partnered with Moist Critical and just dropped the Moist Melt. Available at all 1,000 Beast Burger locations. Go order it. I want to know if you like it. And another tweet: 100k poker game versus Mr Beast. Most reckless night of my life. So two buddies who just, do a massive poker game with 100k like it's nothing, have business deals together, it seems, with him having his own burger at Mr Beast Burger, which apparently are pretty disgusting. I'm sure he spent hours crafting the recipes himself. But let's get to Critical's video. Basically, Critical was mad that people were criticizing Mr Beast for making his own Squid Game and maybe not using the money he's using to build that Squid Game to give to charities without like a gimmick, and also missing the point of Squid Game. So let's just start with the video with his introduction.
This is the tweet that really greased my ass first thing this morning that I want to talk about. Hot take, but I feel once you've reached this level of wealth, maybe you should be using said wealth to benefit the impoverished and not use it to recreate a show that is a direct critique of the exact thing being done here, but hey, that's just me. This is in reference to Mr. Beast and his upcoming Squid Game video. This is not a hot take, this is a dumb take. This is what scientists call posting cringe on Maine. This is a stupid statement. Squid Game, the actual show, cost $21.4 million to make. That money could have been used to help the impoverished in the community, but it wasn't. It was used for entertainment. Interesting. It decides to critique society while also participating in it. Very curious. It's critiquing something that it is directly benefiting from. Interesting. Why didn't they point that out in this tweet? The $21 million for Squid Game, the show, is a lot more than the $2 million Mr. Beast is spending. Why didn't they mention that? It's weird that they focused on Mr. Beast, who is well known for helping a lot of people through his videos and the money those videos make.
Wait, can you guys explain this to me? If any of you guys watched him, is he literally using the meme that left-wing people use to capitalists who basically say, well, you live in a capitalist society, so therefore you can't criticize it? It seems like he's actually using that as like a legit argument, saying like, well, if you don't like capitalism, go live in Venezuela, because if you live in a capitalist economy, which we pretty much all do, then you actually benefit from capitalism and you like capitalism and you're being a hypocrite. I don't know if this guy's being super ironic. Let me know if you watch him. I find that very weird. So I don't know why you can't see using the aesthetics of anti-capitalism, which come directly from someone's personal experience of capitalism, to make yourself more money, to make yourself more clout, which you say, Mr. Beast, is all for charity. I can't see why you don't understand people might think that's a bit weird. So he then spins this all around and basically says anyone who criticizes Mr. Beast because he genuinely helps the community, if you spend any time on Twitter and you criticize Mr. Beast, you're a hypocrite because you're not going out and volunteering, and various other ridiculous examples like that. He also just like basically simps for Mr. Beast uncritically, ironic for his name, the whole time.
Mr. Beast went the extra mile with his food bank because he wanted it to be able to serve his community in the best possible way. And this is like a full-time job that he has, running that food bank. He also has that Mr. Beast's philanthropy channel because he is exactly the kind of wealthy person people have been begging for, and he's still getting for it. That Mr. Beast philanthropy channel, 100% of the revenue that makes and the brand deals all go into that food bank, which is serving his community. And he is running this every single day, and he is still getting steamrolled by 12-year-olds on Twitter as if he's not doing enough. The user who posted this awful take has 16,000 tweets on their account. That's a lot. I have like 300 hours total on Twitter scrolling, and I only have 2,500 tweets. So let's just go ahead and be really generous and say they have doubled the amount of time I've spent on Twitter. So they have 600 hours worth of Twitter scrolling. There's so much more you can do to help the community than just donate money. You could have spent that 600 hours volunteering at a shelter, helping out at your local food bank. You know, you could have donated your time to helping your community, but you didn't. You chose to whine and complain on Twitter for 600 hours. Why is it only Mr. Beast's responsibility to help the community? Don't you also have that obligation? You're choosing not to, and I'm very disappointed. Everyone wants a wealthy person who's extremely generous to the community and doing things to help the community, and we have that with Mr. Beast, and he is still getting shit for it. Blows my mind.
But the difference is, Mr. Beast is a millionaire who literally does this stuff all the time on top of doing ridiculous stunts for YouTube money and fame. He's not like your average person, and just with like many millionaires, you can criticize how they do their charity work. And it's fine to be cynical of people like Mr. Beast who throw money around like it's nothing. And let's not forget, for such a great charity man, he also took federal government loans, which he didn't have to pay back, to pay for his business. Surely a guy who is giving so much to charity and throwing around money like nothing and is so genuine, he just wants to help everyone, wouldn't be taking federal loans, literally using your tax money to fund his own business, which apparently is just for charity. The thing with this video, you can literally switch out Mr. Beast for like any of the millionaires and billionaires who do charity work. You could switch him out for Bill Gates. You could switch him out for Warren Buffett. You could probably even switch him out for Jeffrey Epstein. I'm of course joking with that last part, but it's good to remind people that giving loads of money to charity and good causes doesn't make you a good person inherently. And why I say that is that Mr. Beast's content, and I've talked about this a lot, is very, very exploitative of poorer people. So we talked about that game show he did where he went to the winner's house and talked about basically what a dump it was, and also said stuff about his car and like how happy he was that they were helping him.
The 2001 Toyota Camry?
I bought it like that.
Oh dang, how much did you buy it for?
$600.
So the current house we were just in, which is smaller than the one you just bought, you actually split it in half with another family.
Yes.
That's crazy, that's crazy, that's crazy.
Technically, anybody could use $1 million, but it's clear that this is really gonna change your life and help you out in a positive way. And I'm glad we could do that for you, man.
Now we're gonna take you to Mark's house and just show you where he lives.
Popped it, so it's flat.
Your cousin is sleeping on an air mattress that's like has a hole in it, so he's sleeping on the floor. Can I just say, I'm super glad you won the $1 million. I really am. The more you show us around, the more I'm like, thank God you won the $1 million. The more you show us around, the more you show us around, the more you show us around, the more I'm like, thank God you won the $1 million.
But also, I just don't like Mr. Beast because he's like a privileged arsehole anyways. He's done multiple videos where he goes to prisons and he talks about how horrible it is to be in prison for like 50 hours, 24 hours, when he's just making like a viral video with his friends where they're just messing about with prison guards and treating it all as a joke.
I already got 9 pairs.
I got 7, 8, 9. Oh, give me a 10 and I got it straight. So this is my brownie.
This is rigged!
I just won so many brownies. Oh, let's go. Okay.
Let's just say the guards were talking a little smack while we were playing some basketball. Turns out they were better than we thought.
Nolan booked it.
There's like 3 hours left. What's going on?
Let's calm down, boys. Pineapple, that's my safe word. Pineapple! Ah, that's tight! That's real tight!
Well, go into your cells. I'm gonna help you out.
I feel like the objective of prison is to make you feel like an animal.
Everybody line up outside your cell.
Every time I finally fall asleep, I get woken up. I'm so sick of this place.
Bro, in prison they strip everything away from you, so even something as simple as hot water for a few minutes literally changes the course of your whole day. Clean the prison and all around subject it to the mental warfare that is being a prisoner. I feel like the objective of prison is to make you feel like an animal. Make you feel like an animal. Make you feel like an animal.
But you think a guy who's just so well-meaning would probably take that experience and be like, yeah, America has like more people in prison than literally any other country on the planet. There's a for-profit private prison industry combined with the war on drugs, which essentially has extended the slavery of African Americans into the present day. Many people in these awful conditions are there for non-violent drug offenses and are there to generate profit. Maybe I could take this experience and highlight to my audience like the general problems of the prison industry and the prison systems in America, instead of making a viral video and my only message being like, I think this is like mental warfare. So you're admitting how brutal it is, but then the whole thing is a silly viral video. But so many innocent people or people who've broken laws that shouldn't even exist, that's their reality all the time, and you're treating it like a fun game.
Make you feel like an animal.
And these fun games for you have made you millions and millions of dollars, which you haven't put back in to either helping the causes of why people go into prison, advocating to overturn laws, maybe advocating to make marijuana federally legal and expunge the convictions of people who've gone to prison for non-violent drug offenses. Forgive me if I'm cynical for a guy who uses the aesthetics of poverty to make himself look like a good person, while at the same time not actually addressing with his charity work any of the causes of his poverty. And even on his charity channel, look at his thumbnails. Look at this one, helping hurricane survivors. Like, is he meant to be genuinely concerned in this thumbnail? Because thought of him posing like, oh, Mr. Beast, open your mouth and make your eyes look really weird, get you a nice shot for this thumbnail is really strange. This stuff is all for his image. And if you go on his Twitter, look at his Twitter likes, look at loads of different things. He's just obsessed with himself and his own growth. So here's the tweet he liked. Why is there almost no media coverage of the philanthropy of Mr. Beast and Jacksepticeye? But I have a funny feeling that if they made the slightest joke in bad taste, but there would be a 3-week media cycle around it. I mean, Mr. Beast, you get millions and millions and millions of views on YouTube Everyone loves you in the YouTube community, apart from me. And the thing you care about is mainstream media recognition. Like, do you really need that? Is that something you care about? If you're doing this out of the goodness of your own heart, why do you care about this? Now, Mr Beast also says he pays millions in taxes, which no doubt he probably does pay millions in taxes. Now, before we get on to like the morality of his charity work, I want to talk about the tax stuff a bit more. So I think all these people should be taxed way more, but charity work makes me feel that even more because there's so many tax loopholes in America, specifically with charities. So I quickly want to play you either the audio or video of two YouTube videos. Now this one's really good, from Adam Ruins Everything, Why Billionaire Philanthropy is Not So Selfless. Basically outlines how this is like for them to keep hold of their wealth, and even if it is for good causes, they're like the ones who determine this. There's no say from the public, when often their income hasn't been taxed properly because either they're getting tax breaks or other things that are funded by the general taxpayer.
I'm one of the good billionaires who really is giving their money away.
More like our money, because billionaire foundations like yours are essentially one big tax dodge. Normally, when an individual earns income, a portion goes to taxes so that our democratically elected officials can use it to pay for public goods like schools, services, and infrastructure.
This money will go towards what we, the people, have decided.
But money donated to private foundations is mostly untaxed, which means these billionaires get to put their interests ahead of the public's.
Or this money could go towards what I, the me, have decided.
Not only that, they also get a personal tax deduction for making a donation to charity, which means the public loses out on even more money.
Thank you for your donation. Wait, seriously, why the heck am I doing this?
And when they donate money to their own foundations, they're not even required to give all of it away. Tax laws only require these types of charitable organizations to spend 5% of investment assets annually, and that could just be on expenses and salaries.
Now look, I'm not saying Mr Beast necessarily does any of those things, but I am pretty sure he does get tax write-offs and tax breaks, and I don't think his actual income is being taxed properly because of this. Now, a really interesting video I just stumbled across when researching for just this video was there's a guy called Mitch Jackson, and he's like a small YouTuber who's a lawyer, and he made this video about Mr Beast and his tax, and he basically outlines as a lawyer what he would tell Mr Beast to do to make sure he could pay as little tax as possible.
Getting ready for 2022, there are all types of ways to legally and ethically minimize your state and federal income taxes and maximize either your profits, what goes in the pockets of you and your team, or what you may want to give away to different local, national, and international charitable organizations instead of writing a big check to Uncle Sam. Some of the tools that I'm talking about include the proper use of corporations and limited liability companies. It involves the proper use of employees, independent contractors. Retirement accounts are a great way to disperse funds, create additional write-offs, and maximize what you, your family, your team members either receive or can gift to third parties. Complicated for those of us that have been doing this a long time. But when it comes to the business side, protecting your personal assets from your business liabilities, maximizing tax deductions, and minimizing what you pay in state and federal tax, increasing the wealth of your family, of your team through benefit programs, through the use of properly formed, managed, and run corporations and limited liability companies, different types of partnerships. There are all types of things you guys can be doing that will literally save you tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or maybe in the case of Mr. Beast, literally millions or tens of millions of dollars in tax liabilities.
So they have a lawyer advising Mr. Beast how he can legally get around paying his fair share of tax. Now, again, I don't know Mr. Beast's tax situation. I don't know what he does with his money. I don't know how his charity works, if he donates his personal income or just like transfers it over. But it's clear for these people, there's a lot of incentive to do this beyond just actually like being a great guy who gives to charity. It seems to be a good way of both avoiding paying your fair share of tax, and instead of your tax money being used by democratically elected people to do what I guess the people say in theory, you're not paying your fair share so you could do your own personal vanity projects. In a lot of cases with Mr. Beast, they will make you more wealthy and more famous. And I'd assume that Mr. Beast probably has a really good lawyer who probably knows this stuff even better than the guy you've just heard, who may or may not give him similar advice, and he may or may not take it, and you can be the judge if you think he would take advice like this. So now let's move on to like millionaire and billionaire charity being sort of like undemocratic and generally like immoral in some cases, and not to downplay like the actual work Mr. Beast does in terms of like he does do good things generally, and I'm sure the people who benefit from that like him a lot for doing that. But with the tax stuff and how we're becoming more of like an oligarchy, I just don't generally agree with a guy having this much money where he can both do so much really expensive stuff on YouTube for his own income while also doing all this charity work with that income, which probably allows him more control over what that income is used for and how much it's taxed. So a good article by The Guardian, Paul Vallely, How Philanthropy Benefits the Super Rich. Philanthropy is always an expression of power. Giving often depends on the personal whims of super rich individuals. Sometimes these coincide with the priorities of society, but at other times they contradict or undermine them. Increasingly, questions have begun to be raised about the impact these mega donations are having on the priorities of society. There are a number of tensions inherent in the relationship between philanthropy and democracy. For all the huge benefits modern philanthropy can bring, the sheer scale of contemporary giving can skew spending in areas such as education and healthcare to the extent that it can overwhelm the priorities of democratically elected governments and local authorities. The result has been what the late German billionaire shipping magnate and philanthropist Peter Kramer called a bad transfer of power from democratically elected politicians to billionaires, so that it is no longer that the state that determines what is good for the people, but rather the rich who decide. The Global Policy Forum, an independent policy watchdog that monitors the work of the UN General Assembly, has warned governments and international organizations that before taking money from rich donors, they should assess the growing influence of major philanthropic foundations, and especially the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and analyze the intended and unintended risks and side effects of their activities. Most Western governments offer generous tax incentives to encourage charitable giving. In England and Wales in 2019, an individual earning up to £50,000 a year paid 20% of it in income tax. For those earning more, anything between 50 and 150,000, that was taxed at 40%, and anything above that was taxed at 45%. But gifts to registered charities are tax-free. So a gift of £100 would cost the standard taxpayer only 80, with 20 being paid by the government, but the highest rate taxpayer would need to pay out only £55 because the state would provide the other £45. Super rich philanthropists therefore find themselves in a position where a large percentage of their gift is funded by the taxpayer. Thus, it becomes far less clear whether the money philanthropists give away can rightfully be regarded as their own. If taxpayers contribute part of the gift, why should they not have a say in which charity receives it? In Britain, the total cost of the state to various tax breaks to donors in 2012, estimated by the Treasury to be at $3.64 billion. So Americans, not only have you been subsidizing some of Mr. Beast's business through him getting a loan through the CARE Act, which was probably written off because he spent it on his employees' salaries and business expenses, but potentially you're also funding his charitable givings as well. So Professor Robert Reich, director of the Center of Philanthropy and Civil Society at Stanford, describes it as a form of power that is largely unaccountable, untransparent, donor-directed, protected in perpetuity, and lavishly tax-advantaged, and he sees the answer in restricting tax relief to a hierarchy of approved classes. So Mr. Beast says he has paid millions in taxes, but for me personally, I say most of his income should be taxed, and if he wants to do charitable work, and if he is given to charities where he'll get a tax break for doing so, or a tax incentive for doing so, then that should really be removed in my opinion. Obviously, I'm not naive and know that within a capitalist system, you don't really have much of a democracy, but it's better for people to have some say then Mr Beast just take it upon himself to decide what this money is spent on, especially if potentially, based on how he structured his business, you are in part funding that. Speaking of the charity stuff and now linking it to the environmental stuff, Mr Beast has of course done a lot of big projects on environmental charity, so planting loads of trees, and his newest project about cleaning up the ocean. So this tweet was deleted, but Team C's wrote, NFTs for Team C's. Thanks OpenSea, Eternity, Yondo Mondo, what an awesome crypto collaboration art. And then Yondo Mondo wrote, huge shout out to Hiroshi Yoshi for the epic art he contributed in support of Team C's. Going to be a big win for the oceans. Now this tweet got a massive backlash because people were saying, well, Mr Beast, you're meant to care about the environment, so why are NFTs being made for promoting your charity, which is meant to be actually helping environmental causes? This plays into a lot of my logic that Mr Beast doesn't actually care about this stuff on a real personal level. He's doing it for clout and fame, even if he's not necessarily doing it to make himself more wealthy. But here's an interesting one. Someone tweeted, Vince Vantage, Mr Beast shills an NFT pump and dump scam with Logan and Gary V. Basically, Mr Beast here and Logan Paul and Logan Paul's co-host are basically talking about doing something that if you're doing on the stock market would probably be illegal. I've only just discovered this YouTuber today because I was researching this stuff, but a guy called Philion, I think. I guess it's not Phil Lion or something like that. But basically he made a video on this specifically and he knows more about this Gary V guy. So I'm just going to play you the Mr Beast clip with Logan Paul and I'm going to play you Philion's analysis.
About to jump into a video describing blatant market manipulation on so many different levels.
So me and Logan both bought punks. You guys will probably see on his Twitter that he bought a bunch of crypto punks at the same time, right? When Gary pulled us in that call.
For context, CryptoPunks are an NFT project. They're just JPEG 8-bit pictures, right, of different looking people.
Just out of nowhere, just calls me and he's like, yo, I got like 30 people to call, hop in. I'm like, I don't care. He's like, it'll be the best decision of your life. Just get in. I was like, okay. So there's like all these like very successful people in this call. And Gary's just like, everyone shut the f up. Here's what you're going to do, and you're going to do it right now. You're all going to buy a bunch of CryptoPunks.
CryptoPunks. It's going to be huge. It's going to be the next Facebook. All of us, we're like, okay,
everyone's
Gary.
Judging. I'm texting Logan, and I'm like, Gary lost his
legit?
mind.
Bro, all of us are like, yo, Gary's nuts. Yo, Gary was right again.
Like 8 of them, and they did pretty good.
And any zingers? Any like real special ones?
I had some that like, whatever, 20, 30x. I was like, I don't know, but last time I made money, sure.
You guys a question? When Gary does that call with all these billionaires and 8 months or a year later, everybody's like, Gary was right again.
Yeah.
Is it possible that he's right because of the call? Do you know what I'm saying?
I think about that a lot.
Dude, he has all these billionaire market makers in the thing. He makes the call, makes the market.
What do you know, guys? A broken clock is right twice a day. Words of wisdom coming out of Mike Maliak. This man says, don't you think it's only successful because you guys are making it a thing? You're quite literally manipulating the market with a limited supply, buying everything up and pumping up the price. So Jimmy, or Mr. Beast, just beautifully painted the picture for us. Gary V called up 30 heavy hitters, as Logan likes to say, all in one call. Gary V says, CryptoPunks, an NFT project, is going to be the next biggest thing. How do I know that? Because all of us are going to make it the next biggest thing. If we all band together and buy them, create a monopoly, the price has only one option. It's gonna go up. And what do you think happened? Now we're sitting in the biggest, dumbest bubble ever. They're laughing about market manipulation. This is a crime if this was stocks, right? Securities. This is not allowed for multiple reasons.
So good analysis there by Philion, and like the video was showing you there, Gary V just calls Mr. Beast up, do you want to invest in these NFTs? And then he just does it, which, because he gets all these massive investors to do, really inflates the value of it. He doesn't even know much about this product and then also invest in other stuff. This guy is shady for all these things. Now, he also on Twitter follows a lot of crypto stuff. He follows the CryptoPunks bot Twitter. He also follows Immutable and Pranksy and Refinable, all these things involved in the NFT blockchain sort of space. He also wrote on Twitter, I'm teaming up with Coinbase to give one person 100k in Bitcoin. Here's how to enter. And he also likes tweets from Elon Musk, Bitcoin King, and Jack Dorsey, who absolutely loves Bitcoin, saying Bitcoin changes everything for the better, and we will forever work to make Bitcoin better. Now, if you guys haven't watched it, I've made a whole video on Bitcoin bros, and I believe Mr Beast is one of these guys. They are seriously deluded about Bitcoin, and they want every country essentially to become El Salvador, where Bitcoin is legal tender. But if you guys know anything about like El Salvador and the history and the tumultuous history there, probably one of the worst ideas to do this thing. But they think this unregulated, decentralized currency will free the world. It's seriously insane. But I do believe Mr Beast believes in this stuff as well. And I don't think there's any way to reconcile. If you care about the environment, you can't be shilling NFTs and Bitcoin at this very present moment. You just cannot be doing that because it's very well documented. These things have a bad effect on the environment. Why? Because they use so much electricity to mine, which is often made from non-renewable sources, but then you have to produce even more electricity. So it helps with the pollution of that stuff. Also, just like using all these computers for one thing, the computer will eventually break and can never be used for anything again. So it's so wasteful, and it's just rife with money laundering and scams. And like Fillion said in that video, that if you did this on the stock market, you would probably be prosecuted because it's very illegal to do something like this with stocks. And one day the US government is going to catch on to this with Bitcoin and NFTs, and I think people will be held accountable. But if you're not sure how NFTs and Bitcoin are bad for the environment, let me educate you quickly. So Wired reporting, NFTs are hot, so is their effect on the Earth's climate. So the major marketplaces for NFT art, which include Maker's Place, Nifty Gateway, and Super Rare, conduct their sales through Ethereum, which maintains a secure record of cryptocurrency and NFT transactions through a process called mining. This system is similar to the one that verifies Bitcoin, involving a network of computers that use advanced cryptography to decide whether transactions are valid, and in doing so uses energy on the scale of a small country. How exactly that translates to carbon emissions is a contested subject. Some estimates suggest as much as 70% of mining operations may be powered by clean sources, but the number fluctuates seasonally, and in the global energy grid that mostly runs on fossil fuels, critics say energy use is energy use. Some mining hotspots are popular because of cheap hydropower, like Montana, have banned new operations over concerns that even clean mining would push neighboring energy users to dirtier energy sources. Ethereum's developers have planned a shift to a less carbon-intensive form of security via a blueprint called Ethereum 2.0, but this has been in the works for years and there's no clear deadline for the switch. So obviously linked to NFTs and Ethereum is Bitcoin, so why Bitcoin is bad for the environment? According to Cambridge, Bitcoin's electricity consumption index, Bitcoin mining operations worldwide now use energy at the rate of nearly 120 terawatt hours per year. This is about the annual domestic electricity consumption of the entire nation of Sweden. According to the website Digiconomist, a single Bitcoin transaction uses the same amount of power that the average American household consumes in a month, and is responsible for roughly 1 million times more carbon emissions than a single Visa transaction. At a time when the world desperately needs to cut carbon emissions, does it make sense to be devoting a Sweden's worth of electricity to a virtual currency? The answer would seem pretty clearly to be no. A few years ago, miners descended upon Plattsburgh, New York, about 150 miles north of Albany, which gets much of its electricity from hydroelectric dams on the St. Lawrence River. The power is relatively inexpensive, but once Plattsburgh uses up its allotment, it has to purchase more at higher rates. Bitcoin mining drove up the cost of electricity in the city so dramatically that in 2018, Plattsburgh enacted a moratorium on new mining operations. Andrew Yang, the former presidential candidate who ran for the mayor of New York, said he wants to turn the city into a cryptocurrency mining hub. It's hard to imagine a worse idea. The city is already looking at spending billions of dollars to protect itself from sea level rise. Increased emissions are pretty much the last thing it needs. Forward-looking politicians should think about ways not to buoy Bitcoin mining, but to bury it. That article was pretty damning, but I feel Mr. Beast's overall use of Bitcoin, belief in Bitcoin, really undercuts any charity work he does in terms of helping the environment. If he wants to do this genuinely out of a love for planet Earth and the environment, then why are you shilling NFTs? why are you shilling Bitcoin? Why are you working with Logan Paul and Gary Vee to inflate the values of new NFTs? But in my mind, it's because he's a Bitcoin bro. And like Elon Musk and Jack Dorsey, who think they're saving the world through various means, including Bitcoin and Tesla cars, Mr Beast, this young guy, probably thinks he's saving the world. Like, maybe genuinely he thinks doing surface level things where you plant trees or clean up the oceans is really targeting the root causes of society's issues. But no millionaire Bitcoin bro capitalist is going to save the planet while shilling for one of the newer sources of the consumption of electricity, which not only increases the costs for everyone, but also contributes to climate change because most electricity is still produced by non-renewable dirty energy. So I'm a very cynical person of people with money anyway, but if you were going to turn me into a simp like Critikal, who uncritically views Mr Beast's charity work, what I'd probably want to see is both how much tax he pays, where his money goes. I'd also want to see him do a 180 on crypto and talk about how damaging it is to the environment, and either show him developing technology to make crypto mining more green or just totally coming out against cryptocurrency, because if he cares about the environment like his charity work seems to suggest, then why does he shill for crypto so much? These Team C's and Team Tree stuff is all well and good, but they're very extravagant events which loads of people pay attention to. Mr Beast got his fame from doing ridiculous stunts about like listening to Jake Paul songs for 10 hours or counting to 100,000. He never did it because he wanted to become wealthy and help with charity. He never expressed the desire to do that. And his often psychotic ways of gaining fame don't make me think this guy cares about the environment and that's why he does everything. It makes me think he only cares about clout. You saw that tweet he liked about like mainstream media. He cares about this stuff. Why would you care about this stuff when you are one of the most watched YouTubers, you're totally loaded and you still care about mainstream media? You're still tweeting about your views on your Twitter feed. You're still tweeting about really, really minor stuff because it's clear this guy is just obsessed with fame. That should be clear to anyone who knows anything about his early career. In old interviews, he talked about like gaming the algorithm, knowing counting to 100,000 would do good for a video. Again, he didn't go through all of this to clean up the oceans and plant trees. So overall, simping for Mr Beast is stupid. Even if you like him and think overall he has like a net positive effect on the world, it's ridiculous because we know nothing about how he pays his taxes. As you saw there with the lawyer, he outlined probably what he's told a million other people to do is like, this is how you avoid paying Uncle Sam, as he calls it. You do this, this, and this to maximize the profits for yourself and also maximize your charitable donations without actually paying your fair share of tax. And also, if anyone cares about climate change, then I think you actually have to be an anti-capitalist, not some Bitcoin bro Elon Musk sim. Because this system of economics is literally destroying the planet for profit. And we think now it's going to save us. And millionaires' charities are going to save us by what? Planting some trees? Cleaning up a bit of the ocean? You think that's what's going to help now? In my mind, too little too late. And you have to be extremely naive to think it even really matters in the grand scheme of things. Then like 100 corporations commit like 70% of the CO2 emissions. Overall, in my opinion, Mr Beast is just a clout chaser. And he's just doing this for his own image. And he's doing this to get more popular and rich. He doesn't really care about these things. And I think the clearest indicator is, if you care about the environment, why are you shilling crypto? If you're so wealthy and you're putting all your money into charity, why are you taking federal loans of the government? In essence, if you're American, you're probably subsidizing a lot of Mr Beast's career. So Mr Beast is finally cancelled. I've ended his charity work. I've ended his YouTube career. I wonder who I should cancel next. Maybe I will also cancel Critikal in a longer video. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter and Instagram. Come join our communities on Discord and on my subreddit. And if you want to support my work on Patreon, and if you made it this far, thank you for watching.